I've been studying human behavior and body language for over 30 years, and there's one simple gesture that most men completely miss, even though women do it right in front of them every single day. Here's something that might surprise you. When a woman crosses her legs a certain way while sitting near you, she's actually sending a very specific message. And gentlemen, if you're over 60 and you've been wondering whether that special lady at your book club, your neighbor, or even someone you've been spending time with is actually interested in you, this one gesture could be the answer you've been looking for. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal what psychologists and body language experts have discovered about this fascinating signal. And trust me, once you see it, you'll never miss it again. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm so glad you're here today because we're diving into something truly special, the secret language of female body language, specifically designed for gentlemen in their golden years. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Body language. Isn't that just for young people trying to figure out dating? Absolutely not. Whether you're a widower getting back into companionship, divorced and exploring new friendships, or simply trying to understand if that wonderful woman you've been having coffee with every Tuesday actually enjoys your company as much as you enjoy hers. Understanding these signals can make all the difference in the world. You see, after 60, the dating game changes completely. It becomes more subtle, more refined, and honestly, more meaningful. Women at this stage of life don't play games the way younger folks might, but they do communicate, sometimes quite clearly, through their body language. And here's the beautiful part. Once you understand what to look for, you'll feel more confident, less confused, and much more capable of recognizing when there's genuine interest. So let's get started. Section 1. The basic leg cross. The direction matters more than you think first. Let's talk about the most basic form of leg crossing, and the one detail most men completely overlook. When a woman sits down and crosses her legs, pay attention to which direction her knees are pointing. This isn't just about comfort, my friends. This is actually a subconscious signal about her level of interest and engagement. Here's what research in behavioral psychology tells us. When a woman crosses her legs and her knees point toward you, this is generally a positive sign. Her body is literally orienting itself in your direction. It's as if her subconscious mind is saying, I'm focused on you. You have my attention. Think about it this way. Imagine you're sitting at your local coffee shop with Martha, the lovely lady from your church group. You're having a conversation, and you notice that when she sits down across from you, she crosses her legs and her knees are pointing directly at you, not away, not to the side, but right at you. That's signal number 1, gentlemen. She's engaged. Now, on the other hand, and I want you to remember this, if a woman crosses her legs and her knees point away from you, or toward the exit, or toward other people in the room, well, that's often a sign that she's not fully engaged in the interaction. She might be polite, she might be friendly, but there's likely not that deeper level of interest you're hoping for. I remember a gentleman who came to one of my workshops. George was his name, 68 years old, wonderful fellow. He told me he'd been having lunch with a woman from his hiking group for 3 months, and he couldn't figure out if she was interested or just being friendly. I asked him one simple question. When she sits down with you, where do her knees point? He thought about it and said, she always seems to angle herself toward the window, not toward me. That was his answer right there. She enjoyed his company as a friend, but the romantic interest he was hoping for probably wasn't there. Section 2. The ankle cross. The more delicate signal of femininity. Now, let's talk about a variation that's particularly common with women over 60, the ankle cross. This is when a woman crosses her legs at the ankles rather than at the knees. And gentlemen, this is actually a very elegant, refined gesture that many women of our generation were taught from a young age. But here's where it gets interesting from a psychological perspective. When a woman crosses her ankles and tucks them slightly to one side while sitting with you, particularly if she's also leaning slightly toward you, this often indicates that she's feeling feminine and graceful in your presence. She's presenting herself in what she considers an attractive, ladylike manner. Think about that for a moment. If she didn't care what you thought, would she bother with such a poised, elegant posture? Probably not. I've observed this countless times. A woman will sit one way when she's alone or with female friends, maybe more relaxed, more casual. But when a man she's interested in joins her, suddenly she adjusts her posture, crosses her ankles, sits up a little straighter. This is her subconscious mind saying, I want to look my best for you. I want you to see me in a positive light. One important note here, especially for our senior audience, many women over 60 were raised in an era when proper posture and sitting like a lady were emphasized. So sometimes this ankle crossing is simply good manners. The key is to look at the context. Is she doing this only around you? Does she combine it with other positive signals like smiling, leaning in, or maintaining eye contact? That's when you know it means something more. Section 3. The double cross, a sign of deep comfort or uncertainty. Here's a gesture that's absolutely fascinating, and body language experts have studied this one extensively. The double cross is when a woman crosses her legs at the knees and wraps one foot behind the ankle of the other leg. It's like a leg pretzel, if you will. Now, this one can mean two different things, and understanding the difference is crucial, meaning number one, deep comfort and openness. In some contexts, especially when combined with a relaxed upper body, good eye contact, and smiling, this double cross actually indicates that a woman feels very comfortable and secure with you. She's literally settling in, getting cozy. It's the same principle as when you kick your shoes off at home after a long day. You only do that when you feel comfortable and safe. If you're sitting on a park bench with Eleanor from your art class and she shifts into this position while laughing at your stories and touching your arm occasionally, that's a green light, my friend. She's not just comfortable, she's enjoying herself immensely. Meaning number two, self-protection or nervousness. However, and this is important, if this same double cross is combined with crossed arms, minimal eye contact, or a woman who seems to be making herself smaller, it can actually be a defensive posture. It might mean she's feeling uncertain, nervous, or is trying to create a psychological barrier. The difference is in the overall picture. You have to be a detective, looking at all the clues together. Here's a practical example. Let's say you're on a first meeting with someone from a senior dating website. She sits down, immediately does this tight double cross, crosses her arms, and keeps looking at her phone. That's telling you she's uncomfortable or not feeling the connection. But if that same woman, 30 minutes later, relaxes, uncrosses her arms, leans toward you, and then comfortably settles into that double cross while listening to you talk about your grandchildren, well, that's a completely different story. She's warmed up to you. Engagement moment. Now, if you're finding this information helpful, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And here's my question for you. Have you ever noticed these signals but didn't know what they meant? Or maybe you missed them entirely and realized it only later? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single comment and I love hearing your stories. And if you're over 60 and getting back into companionship or dating, this information could completely change how you read social situations. Trust me on this one. All right, let's keep going. Section 4. The fidget and adjust, when she can't quite get comfortable. Here's a subtle one that many gentlemen miss, but it's incredibly revealing. Pay attention to what happens when a woman repeatedly crosses and uncrosses her legs or adjusts her position multiple times during your conversation. Now, the first thing you might think is, oh, she's just uncomfortable sitting. And yes, sometimes that's true. Those restaurant chairs can be pretty hard on the back, especially as we get older. But if the chairs are perfectly fine and she's still shifting around, here's what might really be going on. She's nervous, in a good way. That's right. Sometimes when a woman is genuinely attracted to someone, she becomes a little self-conscious. She's thinking about how she looks, whether she's sitting in a flattering way, if her outfit looks good from that angle. This fidgeting can actually be a sign of interest, especially if it's combined with other positive signals like smiling and laughing at your jokes, asking you questions about yourself, playing with her hair or jewelry, and leaning toward you when you speak. I'll share a quick story. My friend Richard, 72, told me about a woman he met at his retirement community. Every time they sat together at events, she would adjust her position constantly. He thought she was bored and wanted to leave. But then he noticed something. She only did this around him. When he saw her talking to other people, she sat perfectly still. That's when it clicked for him. She wasn't bored, she was self-conscious because she liked him. A few weeks later, he asked her to dinner, and they've been together for 2 years now. The lesson? Don't always assume fidgeting means disinterest. Look at the bigger picture. Section 5, the open position, the most positive signal of all. Now let's talk about what I call the open position. And gentlemen, if you see this, you're in very good territory. This is when a woman sits facing you with both feet flat on the ground, or with her legs gently crossed, but her entire body oriented toward you. Her shoulders are facing you, her torso is facing you, and she's not creating any barriers between you. In body language research, we call this fronting. It means someone is giving you their full attention and presence. Think about conversations you've had where someone was clearly distracted or uninterested. Maybe their body was turned away, or they kept looking at other things. That's the opposite of fronting. But when a woman sits across from you, maybe at the senior center, maybe at a dinner party, maybe just in your living room, and she squares her body up to face you completely, that's about as clear as body language gets. She's saying, "Right now, you are the most important person in the room to me." Here's what makes this even more meaningful. As we get older, our time becomes more precious. We're not interested in wasting it on people or situations that don't matter to us. So when a woman in her 60s, 70s, or 80s chooses to give you her complete, undivided attention, that's significant. She's making a conscious choice to be fully present with you. I remember attending a dance at a senior community center last year. I watched a couple in their late 70s sitting at a table. The woman was positioned completely toward this gentleman, her knees toward him, her shoulders toward him, her eyes locked on his face as he told a story. Everyone else in the room might as well have not existed for her in that moment. That's the power of the open position. It's unmistakable when you see it. Section 6. The barrier signals. What to watch out for. Now, it's important that we also talk about the negative signals, because understanding these can save you from misreading a situation and potentially embarrassing yourself. Signal number 1. The knee block. If a woman crosses her legs and her knee creates a barrier directly between you and her, this can be a defensive posture. It's like she's putting up a little wall. This is especially true if this barrier is combined with crossed arms, leaning away from you, minimal eye contact, and short one-word answers to your questions. Signal number 2, the turned away cross. As we mentioned earlier, when her knees point completely away from you, toward the door, toward other people, toward literally anywhere but you, that's generally not a good sign. Her body is telling you what her words might be too polite to say. I'm not really interested in this interaction. Signal number 3, the tight, closed position. If she sits with her legs pressed tightly together, her hands clasped in her lap, and her whole body seems tense and closed off, she's probably uncomfortable. This might not be about you personally. Maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe she's dealing with health issues. Maybe she's just not in a social mood. But whatever the reason, it's telling you that now might not be the best time to pursue deeper connection. Here's the important thing I want you to understand. These barrier signals aren't rejections of your worth as a person. They're simply information. Maybe the timing isn't right. Maybe she's dealing with personal things. Maybe the chemistry just isn't there, and that's okay. The beauty of understanding body language is that it helps you read situations more accurately, so you don't waste your emotional energy on connections that aren't mutual. Section 7. Context is everything. Reading the whole picture. Here's something crucial that I need you to understand. No single gesture means anything in isolation. You can't just see a woman cross her legs toward you and think, "She must be in love with me." Body language is like a puzzle. You need multiple pieces to see the complete picture. Let me give you a framework for reading these signals accurately. The 3-signal rule. Before you conclude that someone is interested, look for at least 3 positive signals happening at the same time. For example, she crosses her legs toward you, she maintains warm eye contact, and she leans in when you speak. That's a much stronger indicator than any single signal alone. Consider the environment. Is she crossing her legs that way because she's interested, or because the sun is in her eyes from that angle? Is she leaning toward you because she's attracted, or because the restaurant is noisy and she can't hear you? Always consider the practical environmental factors. Look for consistency. Does she show these positive signals every time you see her? Or was this just one random occurrence? Patterns are more reliable than isolated incidents. Notice changes. This is a big one, especially for those of you who have known someone for a while. Has her body language toward you changed over time? For instance, maybe when you first met Betty from your volunteer group, she was polite but reserved. But now, 3 months later, she lights up when she sees you, her body language is more open, and she finds reasons to sit next to you. That progression tells you something important. Her feelings have developed over time. One gentleman I know, Tom, age 65, told me he never would have asked his now wife Patricia on a date if he hadn't noticed this progression. At first, she was friendly but distant. But over several weeks at their community garden project, he noticed she started positioning herself closer to him, making more eye contact, and finding excuses to work on the same tasks together. That pattern gave him the confidence to ask her to dinner, and the rest is history. Section 8. Cultural and generational considerations. Now, there's something important we need to address, and that's how our generation, those of us over 60, approach these social interactions differently than younger folks. Many women in our age group were raised with very specific ideas about propriety, modesty, and ladylike behavior. These values influence body language in significant ways. The modesty factor. A woman who grew up in the 1950s or 60s was often taught to sit with her legs crossed or with her ankles together. This wasn't about attraction or disinterest. This was simply proper etiquette. So you need to be careful not to overanalyze every leg cross as a romantic signal. The subtlety of our generation. Here's what I've noticed. Women over 60 tend to be much more subtle in their signals than younger women. They're not going to be obvious or forward, generally speaking. This means you need to pay closer attention to smaller details. A slight lean in your direction. A hand that briefly touches your arm. Eyes that hold your gaze just a moment longer than necessary. A smile that seems to be reserved just for you. These subtle signals are the way many women of our generation communicate interest while still maintaining the dignity and propriety they were raised to value. Regional and cultural differences. It's also worth noting that body language can vary by culture and region. A woman from the South might have different body language norms than a woman from the Northeast or the West Coast. The key is to get to know the individual person, not just rely on general rules. Section 9. What to do with this information. Practical steps. Alright, so now you understand these signals. But what do you actually do with this information? Here's my practical advice. Step 1. Observe without obsessing. Start noticing body language in your interactions, but don't become so focused on it that you can't enjoy the conversation. The point is to be more aware, not to become paranoid or over-analytical. Think of it like learning to drive. At first, you're very conscious of every single movement, but eventually, it becomes natural, and you don't have to think about it constantly. Step 2. Respond to positive signals with positive signals. If you notice a woman showing interest through her body language, you can respond with your own positive signals. Make good eye contact, but don't stare. Lean slightly toward her when she speaks. Uncross your own arms and maintain an open posture. Smile genuinely. Nod to show you're listening. This creates what psychologists call mirroring, and it helps build rapport and connection. Step 3. Use your words. Here's something important. Body language is helpful, but it's not a substitute for actual communication. If you've been seeing positive signals from someone consistently and you're interested in taking the friendship deeper, at some point you need to use your words. You might say something like, I really enjoy our Tuesday coffee meetings. Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Or, I've loved getting to know you through the book club. Would you be interested in catching a matinee this weekend? Direct, honest communication is always the best policy, especially at our age. We don't have time for games or confusion. Step 4. Respect the answer. Whether you read her body language correctly or not, you need to respect her response when you do communicate your interest directly. If she says yes, wonderful. If she says she values you as a friend but doesn't see it going further, that's okay too. Thank her for her honesty and decide whether you can maintain the friendship comfortably. The worst thing you can do is pressure someone or try to convince them to feel something they don't feel. Section 10. Confidence at any age. Let me tell you something that I think is incredibly important, especially if you're watching this video because you've been feeling uncertain or insecure about dating or companionship at this stage of life. You are not too old for love, romance, companionship, or meaningful connection. I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80, or 90. Human beings are wired for connection at every age. And here's the beautiful truth. Relationships and connections in our senior years can actually be more meaningful than those we had when we were younger. Why? Because we know ourselves better now. We're not trying to impress anyone or be someone we're not. We've lived enough life to know what really matters. When a woman in her 60s or 70s shows interest in you, it's genuine. It's based on who you actually are, not on superficial things like how much money you make or what car you drive. And that's something truly special. I've seen 75-year-olds fall in love like teenagers. I've watched 80-year-olds go on first dates with butterflies in their stomachs. I've witnessed widowers and widows find companionship that brings joy back into their lives after years of loneliness. Age is just a number. Connection is timeless. So if you're watching this video because you're interested in someone, or you're hoping to find someone, or you're just trying to understand human interaction better, good for you. That takes courage. That takes hope. And that's something to be proud of. Closing summary. Let me recap what we've covered today. We've learned that when a woman crosses her legs toward you, it often indicates interest and engagement. We've discovered that the ankle cross can be a sign of femininity and grace, especially when she's trying to present herself well for you. We've explored the double cross, which can mean either deep comfort or nervousness, depending on the context. We've talked about fidgeting and adjusting, which might actually indicate that she's self-conscious because she likes you. We've identified the open position as one of the most positive signals you can receive. We've also covered the barrier signals that suggest disinterest or discomfort. And most importantly, we've emphasized that you need to look at the whole picture, not just one gesture in isolation. Remember, body language is a tool for understanding, not a magic formula. Every person is unique, and every interaction is different. Trust your instincts, pay attention to patterns, and always communicate directly when you're ready to take things to the next level. Motivational close. One of the privileges of getting older is that we develop wisdom. We learn to read people better. We understand that real connection is about much more than surface-level attraction. So use this knowledge not to manipulate or play games, but to better understand and connect with the wonderful people in your life. Whether you're looking for romance, companionship, or simply trying to understand your social interactions better, these insights can help you navigate relationships with more confidence and clarity. And here's my final thought. Don't let fear hold you back. If you're interested in someone and you're seeing positive signals, take that chance. Ask her to coffee, invite her to a concert, suggest a walk in the park. The worst that can happen is she says no, and you're no worse off than you are right now. But the best that can happen, you might just find exactly the connection you've been looking for. Life is too short to live with regrets. Especially at our age, we know this truth better than anyone. Call to action. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. It means the world to me that you invest your time here. If you found this information valuable, please do me a couple of favors. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our videos about senior health, relationships, and living your best life after 60. Second, give this video a thumbs up. It helps other seniors find this content, and that means we can help more people. Third, and this is really important, share this video with friends who might benefit from it. Maybe you have a buddy who's been wondering if that lady at church is interested in him. Maybe your brother is trying to get back into dating after losing his wife. This information could really help them. And finally, drop a comment below. I want to hear from you. Have you noticed these signals before? Did you ever miss a signal and realize it later? Do you have a success story about reading body language correctly? I read every comment and I love hearing your stories. Next week, we're going to talk about more body language secrets, including what it means when a woman touches her hair, plays with her jewelry, or uses specific hand gestures around you. You won't want to miss that one. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay confident, and remember, you're never too old for meaningful connection. I'll see you in the next video.